Hey everyone, my name is Ian, your Walking with Legends podcast host here to give you a quick message before we begin this episode. If you search for Walking with Legends on Facebook, you can find the official page for this podcast. If you haven't already had the chance to like or follow our page, you'll want to make sure you do so to catch every new update as they come. Every Monday when we upload the new episode for the week, if you like and share the post for the episode going live, you'll automatically be entered to win some cool prizes like a Walking with Legends t-shirt, coffee mug, stickers, and more. We appreciate everything that you do to support the show, and if you ever have any feedback or suggestions for future shows or interviews, feel free to email us at walkwithlegends@gmail.com, and we'll be sure to follow up with you soon. Thank you for your support, and enjoy the podcast. Hello everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of Walking with Legends, where I sit down with athletes and personnel from local teams, such as colleges or minor league teams, and discuss their journeys and how they impact their communities on a daily basis, both on and off the field of play. Today, I sit down with Jamauri Bogan, a former running back for the Western Michigan University Broncos football team, who shares how he came to play football, his experiences while playing collegiately, and the awesome things he does to impact his community to this day. Our goal here at this podcast is to show that you don't need to be a superstar athlete to make an impact in your community and become a legend. So I am here now with the former running back from the Western Michigan University Broncos football team, Jamauri Bogan. Thank you so much for being with me.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we're really just going to sit down and talk a little bit about your experience playing with the football team, and just specifically some questions from, I know a lot of the media attention and that kind of thing is from your guys' undefeated season.
Right.
But I really am looking forward to kind of talking with you about a lot of the events that kind of led up to that, and then also kind of what you're expecting for the future of the program as well. So really, I thought that we could start with, and a lot of this is just because I'm curious about a lot of, you hear stories about football players and their journey to get to college football and the pros and different things. But I'm kind of wondering what kind of inspired you growing up to pursue football? Was it like a family dynamic, or was it, what kind of led you to kind of pursue and know that this is something you wanted to do?
Well, for me, honestly, if I could be honest, my mom just put me in football because she needed something for me to do.
Oh, okay.
So she put me in a lot of different sports, and football stuck because I became good at it, and I loved it. I had a true passion for it. It taught me a lot of great qualities that have helped me now as a 23-year-old man. But it was something that I just loved to do, and when I realized that it could pay for college, it made me even drive to go a little bit harder in everything that I did, working out, playing on the field, because I didn't want my older brother paid for college, and I didn't want to do that. So I realized this was my way to make sure that my mom didn't have to take out a student loan on my behalf.
Yeah, no, that's something you don't really think about. Is a lot of so you grew up in New Jersey, correct?
Yes.
So what can you kind of describe a little bit about your high school football experience, or were you kind of like being scouted a lot when you were in school? Or
Yeah, well, my high school experience is pretty unique. My sophomore year in high school, I was New Jersey's Gatorade Player of the Year, and I also had 5 scholarship offers. So one of my biggest ones was Georgia Tech. So right away, as a sophomore in high school, I had 5 scholarship offers. And by the time I was a senior and I made my decision to go to Western Michigan University, I already had 10 plus offers. So I was well on my way to going to college, but the journey to that point was a lot of hard work. In high school, I was a 5'6", 140-pound running back. So that I'm not ideal for any university to give a scholarship to. But the way I played came from the way I trained. And I would beat my teammates to the stadium 2 hours before, and I was running. I was doing push-ups. I was running. Anything that needed to be done, I would do extra to make sure that when it came time to play, there was nobody who was going to be able to stop me.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And that's actually leading up into the next question. So you had a lot of scholarship offers.
Mm-hmm.
What ultimately made you decide to go to Western?
That's a great question. And the reason why I chose Western was because I sat down with a lot of different head coaches. But I thought and I believed, and it was true, that Coach Fleck had something different about him. And I knew where I wanted to go with my life. I wanted it to be more than just football. And I remember him sitting in his office and him telling me that, Jamauri, your life is going to be bigger than football. And I had no clue what he meant, but I was all in to find out what it was going to be like. And I'm telling you, from that point on, things got a lot better. And
Yeah,
I've been fortunate ever since.
that's awesome. Okay, so kind of giving some lead into that 2016 season,
Mm-hmm.
you guys at the end of the previous season had the opportunity to play in the Bahamas
Mm-hmm.
for the Bahamas Bowl. I wanted to kind of get a little bit of your perspective on what that was like to be able to basically go to the Bahamas for a school event,
Mm-hmm.
and play in that game.
It was pretty sweet. It was actually my first time out of the country, and it was playing football yet again. Football's giving me just another experience that I will never have without the game. So that was amazing. We were over there. We got to hang out with some kids in the orphanage, which was amazing. And then we were in Atlantis, one of the finest resorts in the world. And I mean, it was an amazing place to be at. And then from that point on, we went out and won the football game. And I was lucky to end up being the MVP of the football game. So it was exciting. It was a great event, and it sprung us into what was next. And he called that season the year of nevers. So we broke a lot of things that never happened in our program's history, and that led to the following year.
Yeah, and I was just going to follow up too. Is that was the first bowl game ever
Yes.
for Western Michigan University, which was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
For the Kalamazoo community, that was huge to be
Mm-hmm.
able to experience that. And you did rack up over 200 yards and
Mm-hmm.
4 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
That was as a redshirt freshman,
Mm-hmm.
that you were. Kind of describe how did that feel like it was kind of like a turning point for your career, or like you can do so much more,
Mm-hmm.
or how is that like to be able to have that kind of a performance in that big of a stage?
It was definitely great for my confidence. I started the year off basically as a second. Coming into the year, everybody thought I was going to be a back or running back, and I ended up running that year for over 1,000 yards at the end of that season. But that last game really springboarded me into the next year because I had the confidence, and I didn't believe I was that good yet, and I felt like I had a lot of growth to do. So though I had the confidence now to believe that I could, I still felt like there was so much more room for improvement. So when I got back to work in January, I was excited about what else I could do now if I did it with not really, it was still being really, really raw.
Yeah. So kind of take us into the mind of the team. So you guys had just come off this really big, bowl win. You guys are, preparing for the next season. What was that like to prepare for that season? Did it feel different than years past, or, did you kind of feel like it was going to be a special year, or was it kind of a surprise, like as the season went along and you started to rack up wins, that, this can really be special?
Like we all can remember very vividly, all the players in the room that our first meeting back, Coach Fleck put on the board, we're going to the Cotton Bowl. Like, so that dream was already there. So he put it out there, and it was like, whoa, like we've never won the MAC championship in almost 30 years. And you're talking about going to the Cotton Bowl. So he got us dreaming right from the beginning, and it was fun to see how it ended up turning out. But that group was so close together, and we were so entrenched in the culture that we had, which was row the boat, that no matter what was going to happen or adversity that was going to strike, we were ready to take it on together. And that's the biggest thing in any team. If you could do everything together, you have a shot.
Mm-hmm. So another kind of curiosity question, as far as being like a football athlete at a college university, kind of take us into the mind of what is it like to kind of juggle football and school at the same time? The kind of stigma that a lot of people think is that, all you guys do is football, and education's kind of put on the back burner. But you recently got your MBA degree, and so you've taken education very seriously. So how is that like to kind of juggle both sides and be excellent at both of them?
I'm gonna tell you, it's not easy. But we were taught very early on that your life has to be bigger than just a game of football. And so that for me, it was cool seeing Zach Terrell get his MBA in 5 years because that gave me something to pursue. And now it's become something that culturally our program just does as football players because we feel like we're bigger than just being an athlete or a jock who just goes, plays football and does nothing else besides that. So we're always looking to be more than. And I would tell you that it's just so important, though, like not just for me, but for my family. Nobody in my family has an MBA. It changes the story for so many different things. So, yeah, it's very important to us. And we value it more than most programs do.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's so take me into the very first game that you guys have of 2016 is against Northwestern, and traditionally a lot of the kind of smaller schools will play a bigger like a Big Ten team or something like that to and again the stigma around it is just it's a money grab for these smaller schools, but kind of take us into your guys' preparation for a big game like that. And then, the game turned out crazy, to be able to get you guys to win. But do you really feel like that game was kind of the springboard for the year, or man, like we got the energy going for us now?
Yes, it definitely was the springboard. And the cool thing about that game was that a few years prior, the guys like Corey and Austin Guido and Sweeney, they already had played Northwestern, I think, their freshman year. So going into that game, they weren't scared to play because what happens with most non-Power 5 schools is when they go into those games, they already feel like they lost. So one of our coaches used to say, if you already have that feeling, you're already down 14-0 before the game even starts. So we didn't have that feeling. We felt like we belonged. We felt like we had the players. We had better players than they did. And I think it showed when we played. But it was a tough game because they're still a really, really good program. They're a Big Ten program. But we believed mentally that we had what it took, and we went out there and did what we were supposed to do.
Yeah. So do you so again, you had a good game that game. You ended up I believe scoring the kind of go-ahead touchdown, to seal the game. How do you view for that year? How did you view kind of your role on the team, and then did you feel like you were bringing a lot of success to the team as far as because you kind of had like a running back by committee, for quite a few years. So were you kind of comfortable with where you were at, and or did you kind of feel like you could have done more?
No, I thought I was in a great spot. I was lucky. I didn't have to play third down, and I didn't have to catch the ball at the backfield. So every time I really was on the field, I was getting the ball. So they always used to laugh at me, the running backs, like, Jamauri, every time you're in the game, you're getting the ball. I mean, but as a running back, I didn't mind. But yeah, it was. We always had a great committee. Jarvion, I mean, the greatest running back we ever had in our program's history. The numbers say it. And we still had Bellamy, who's a star now. And but he got hurt that year. We had a lot of other guys who just could step in, Devon Tucker, Fabian Johnson, who could just play. And it wasn't because of us, but it was because of the guys we had up front, like Taylor Moton, Chubb Okorafor, and John Keno. And now all these guys are in the NFL now. So it makes sense why we were so successful. But going into that year, we had a committee, and I was going to play a big role in it. But I was excited about leading those guys and being around those guys and what was going to happen with the guys we had up front.
That's awesome. So as the season went along, you guys got to rack up more wins, and the chatter kind of started to pick up eventually. And so I guess we're curious. And actually, I remember watching SportsCenter when PJ Fleck was on SportsCenter and talking with them, and just kind of all this media attention on Little Western Michigan University. So I'm curious as to how did you guys deal with that increase in national attention? Was it kind of like a fire that helped boost you guys every week, or was it kind of like a pressure to adversity that you guys had to overcome?
Well, we actually loved it. We embraced it. We realized that if you wanted to do something or be important, that's going to come with it. We knew that our season was going to be significant. We said before the season got started that we're going to the Cotton Bowl, so we knew it was going to come with that. But the key was to always keep a one-game focus. We never deviated from that. The mindset was focus on the next game. And that's what kept us away from focusing on the cameras and the spotlight. We were just worried about the next game. And the following game after that, we didn't even know what it was because we were so focused on that next game.
So, so the other kind of big thing that happened that year was College Game Day came to Kalamazoo for the first time in forever. Yeah, and so kind of take me into, we obviously understand what it was like from a fan's perspective, but what was it like for the team to know, like, hey, we're good enough, to we're getting enough attention to where even ESPN wants to come to town.
It was fun. I mean, it was exciting. We didn't actually get to enjoy it, and which I tell everybody. I remember watching it on TV in the hotel room, so I wasn't a part of it. We got to see the setup, sit and take pictures, and after that, it was focused on beating Buffalo. Because if we lost the game against Buffalo, we never see the next game against Toledo, which now sets us up to be at the MAC championship. So it's like, don't focus on those things. Keep your mindset focused on what's important. And what was important was winning the game against Buffalo, not the crowd or ESPN being there. But, I mean, the excitement that the people had and the stadium had was electric. And it gives you chills every time you think about it because it was crazy. But we couldn't focus on ESPN. We had to focus on winning the game.
Yeah, and that game it was like snowing and it was just a crazy kind of experience. And again, it was kind of funny to watch on their broadcasts and everything, and these guys that are used to all these kind of different locations having to sit in the snow and the cold, and that was it was a great experience and I know especially for the city of Kalamazoo, it was an incredible experience. Local businesses were kind of hyping everything up, and it was a great experience. So you guys go and you play in the you play against Toledo, and you win the game and kind of seal the MAC side of or the West Division. Kind of take me into how that felt, and to be able to say that you guys were champions.
It felt amazing. I mean, Toledo's a team that always traditionally gives us problems because they match us athlete for athlete. And I mean, that year they had Kareem Hunt, who's is in trouble now, but is one of the best running backs when he's playing in the league. And he ran for over 200 yards that game. He was killing us. So it was an amazing feeling to finally get to a point where we were going to the championship game, where years prior we were sharing the MAC West. We actually won the MAC West now outright. So the locker room was going crazy, but our mind got shifted back to say, hey, this doesn't matter anymore because we still aren't not MAC champions. So and that's what I love so much about that team, that we celebrated, but when we celebrated, it was done. It was time to get to the next thing because we knew that wasn't our ultimate goal.
So you guys go and you play in the MAC championship game at Ford Field against Ohio. Again, just another really close contested game, and really came down literally to the wire. With the interception at the end there. Was it time, I guess, then to celebrate after you guys had won that one and kind of knew that you had done literally everything that you could to make a statement, I guess, to the committee, to be able to get one of those bowl games. I know it's kind of a toss up every year for those smaller schools that go undefeated, whether they're actually going to get something or what they deserve. But was that kind of like the start of the celebration? Yeah,
I could be honest. We celebrated this one. We realized that we hit our goal. We're going to the Cotton Bowl now because we're the only non-Power 5 school that was undefeated. I think it was us in Alabama that were undefeated. So we knew where we were going, and we just had won the MAC championship, which we so desperately desired since we've all been in college. So that night was a great night. I tell you, it was one of the greatest nights of our lives because we did what we set out we were going to do. It was very exciting. Like I said, the energy, the people around us were just feeding into us, and it was fun to walk around town.
So you guys get to go to the Cotton Bowl. So you fly down to Dallas, and you get to play in the AT&T Stadium, and the Western fan base was very well traveled. Quite a few of them came down there and kind of made it a trip, and kind of, I guess, is that like a weird feeling to know that you're 1,000 miles away from home, but yet you still have this home kind of feel to it, or with all these fans coming down to watch you.
Yeah, it was. We couldn't believe it, honestly, if I could be truthful, because we're playing Wisconsin, a team that everyone said travels well. So like, oh man, maybe some of our fans might show up. It's a long drive, and I mean, we got into the stadium. I think we had more fans than they did. I'm like, whoa, Western has shown out. But it was, I mean, it was a time that I think everybody kind of got up for because they realized these things don't happen every single year for our program. And I mean, the MAC championship. I think we probably had 99% of the stands,
Yeah.
and I think there we probably had a good at least 55, 60%. And I mean, Kalamazoo is a special place to me, and I think that when things are going well here, the people really get behind their team.
Mm-hmm. So for I guess your memories of the Cotton Bowl now, obviously you guys didn't win the game, but it was still, considered a huge success,
Mhm.
just to make it to the game. What's kind of your thing that you take away the most, I guess, from being able to play in a game of that magnitude?
Honestly, the first thing that came to my mind when you just brought that question up wasn't actually the game. It was after the game and how hard the guys cried, not because they lost, but because they were no longer going to be teammates. That what stuck with me. I mean, like how we felt about each other was special, and how close we were, and what we had been through over the years with training and practices and all those things. It was like it all had came to a halt that the Corey Davises, the Tillamones, and the Zach Terrells and the Sweeneys and the Guidos were finally leaving our program now. And it was like, man, this one hurts, not because we lost, but because you guys are gone.
Mm-hmm.
So that was probably like the most special part about it, is that we fought so hard. We did what we said we were going to do. We wish we'd have won, but now some of our favorite people were leaving.
Yeah. So would you kind of say that was like the highlight of the year, was being able to go to the Cotton Bowl there, or were there kind of other things mixed in there that, are kind of what you would say is your...
I think honestly, my highlight, the Cotton Bowl was sweet, and got to play at AT&T Stadium. I think, but the MAC championship probably had a better feel, because when we came out, it was just Western. But the Cotton Bowl was special. I mean, how many? There's no other team in our. I think two teams in MAC history have went to a game of that magnitude. So I mean, we're one of two.
Mm-hmm.
How many people can say that?
Right. And it actually was a close game,
Yes.
for the most part. I think it was it Northern Illinois was the other one, and they got killed when they played in the game. So obviously to play a team like Wisconsin, who's
Right.
always very talented team, it's really impressive. So you guys did play in the game, and obviously a lot of the team dynamics and everything switched the next year, with coaching changes and a lot of those special players you were talking about leaving the team. Kind of tell me about like the rest of your college experience. I know that you're now the second in Western history in rushing touchdowns, and you've made a good mark on the program. How would you kind of sum up those last couple of years of the program?
It was fun to take what I learned from one head coach and teammates and people that already were leaders that helped groom me, and take it into the next culture and what we were building with Let's Ride and Coach Lester. And I take both with me wherever I go. So it's interesting because you see one guy who's like truly high energy, 1-to-1, and you see Coach Lester who's on the different end of the spectrum, but they're both very effective at what they do. And so I like to steal from both of them so I could become a better me. And me and Coach Lester have become real close, and I love him and I appreciate everything he's done for me, and how he just allowed us to continue to just grow as people. Because a lot of times coaches come in and they actually just force players out, and he didn't do that. He knew that we were in a strong culture, and he worked with us. I mean, we had to change certain things because, Coach Fleck was no longer the coach, but he worked with us in a way that I will commend him for. And I thank him for just allowing us to continue to be who we were.
So tell me a little bit about, so obviously you're graduated now,
Right.
But you have a lot of experience working with like nonprofit organizations, and it's I know that you've done a lot of work with different camps and different
Right.
things. So kind of tell us a little bit about your experience with those and kind of what that means to you as an athlete.
Right. See, I always feel like there's always something bigger that you got to be chasing. Because for me, that was just impacting the youth, impacting kids, giving back what I have. Because I feel like sometimes in my life when I was growing up, I wish somebody would have said the things that I say to these kids or taught me something. Like I've been in a position where I've been fortunate to be around really, really high level individuals. And I love to give back what I know to the next generation so that they can come up a little bit faster than me and transition not to just become an MBA, but maybe get a PhD, or maybe don't start a business at 22, but start it at 19, because I've said something that ignited a fire in them. But I love that, serving people and giving back. It just gives you a sense of joy because most people in this world want to take. It's better to give. So I love it.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any kind of contact with a lot of those, players that did move on to, or because you guys did say you're a very close team,
right?
And obviously, the Corey Davises and different people went on to the next level,
right?
But do you kind of keep in contact with a lot of those guys still, or?
I mean, yes. Like Zach Terrell was at his lake house a few weeks ago. Timo, I helped coach at his camp like a month ago. Chooks Forest, my best friend. I was in Pittsburgh with him this weekend. So we all stay close together. I mean, those your guys. You went through some hard stuff together. So there's always so much love and respect for those people.
Mm-hmm. And then kind of finally, I wanted to kind of get your thoughts about this upcoming season. There was some good things and some bad things from the previous year. What do you kind of envision the future is going to look like for this season, or kind of what's your prediction, I guess, for how the team is going to go moving forward?
I think they'll have a really good season. I think they have a shot at winning the MAC championship. I think the key is just keeping John Watson healthy. He stays healthy. I think they go win it. That's been the biggest thing the last 2 years. I was like, man, John, stay healthy for us, baby. But that's been the biggest thing. If you can keep that guy healthy, he's a beast. One of the best people that you ever meet is John Watson, and he's a great leader, great person. The guys rally around him. I think we're headed. I think Coach Lester has the ship headed in the right direction. People love him. The players love him. They're embracing what Coach G2 and them are teaching them. I think we got a good shot.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely be in the stands watching.
I'll be there with you.
Yeah, great. So thank you so much, Jamauri, for sitting down and answering some questions. I think that it's always refreshing to be able to be kind of a peek behind the curtain, as to college athletes, and just being able to understand that a lot of the things that happen to you guys or things that you go through are cool experiences, right. And it's not just the Cotton Bowl events or something that right. Are things that make a difference in your life, and it's kind of cool to be able to kind of see that you're making an impact off the field as right. well. So I really appreciate your time. And
thank you. Go Broncos.
Thank you for listening to the Walking with Legends podcast. We appreciate your support and encourage you to follow us on social media and spread the word so that more people can hear the stories of these awesome athletes. Tune in next week as we examine the life and career of international soccer legend Mia Hamm. Until next time, have a legendary week.